Wow, I am pumped. Once again, a very good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome. I am Likita, and as all of you have already heard, I have with me Advait, who is Silray founder Ananthi Balakrishnan's very own student, and we are very happy to be your hosts for today's session. A quick introduction about ourselves. I am an electronics engineer. I work with the Semiconductor MNC in Bangalore. I also lead the Young Professionals Network of the Institution of Engineering and Technology UK here in Bangalore as its chairperson. I'm extremely passionate about education and I serve part-time as a product consultant with a US-based edtech startup and also volunteer as a physics, mathematics, and English teacher for a lot of underprivileged kids over my weekend. I'm also a trained musician, and if you ever would like to catch up with me, the topics that I love to banter on is education, technology, history, economics, and public policy. Advait, can you tell us something about yourself?
Hello, I'm Advait Srinivasan and one the other MC for this session. A brief introduction to myself is that I love to read fantasy and adventure novels. I love to draw monuments and buildings. I love history and economics, and I'm extremely passionate about cricket. My personal experiences with Silray have been really great. Silray has given me a lot of confidence over the past 2 years and has helped me express my feelings much better. Before I joined Silray, I could only talk to my parents properly without stammering. Now I can talk to my entire class properly without being nervous. And most of that credit goes to the Silray Speaker Club. It has pumped up my self-confidence and made me a better person in a whole different angle.
Thank you, Advait. I am so happy to have such a talented student join me as the host for today's session. We also have with us A. Keshavan, our sign language interpreter for the session today. Keshavan has been working in a deaf-enabled foundation as a sign language interpreter. He has previously worked with the ex-governor, Honorable Mr. Banwarilal Purohit, and has also recently interpreted with the State Legislative Assembly Election Commission of India with Thiru Satyabrata Sahul. Thank you, Keshavan, for joining us. Let me quickly remind you of the General Code of Conduct and Basic Etiquette for the session today. Please come prepared. We generally see with a lot of interaction and participation is what makes a session truly successful. So I would request all of you to be actively engaged throughout, but do ensure that you are respectful. We've always seen that collaboration results in more success than conflict. As far as basic etiquette is concerned, try to have your video on if possible. In case you need to ask any question, do use the raise your hand feature on Zoom, or you can also type out your question in the chat box and we'll have the speakers answer all of your questions. With that, let's talk about what Silray is. We keep saying this name out loud so many times. Silray Splendor 2021. So what and who is Silray? Silray is an educational organization with a mission to make education available, engaging, and relevant through experiential learning programs on a variety of disciplines, ranging all the way from art, literature, theater, to STEM, social awareness, and technology-supported alternate schooling programs as well. Splendor was envisioned to be a platform to bring together exceptional educators, researchers, and other stakeholders of the education ecosystem to empower collaborations both at a national and international level, resulting in increased reach, impact, and implementation of creative breakthrough ideas. Now that we have introduced ourselves as well as the conference, let's introduce our audience to ourselves. You see a Mentimeter link on the screen. Can we have the link, please? Please visit this link and answer the questions. This will enable us to understand the profile of the audience and tailor our learning accordingly. The link is also typed out in the chat box. www.menti.com/E3UQMR3HHA. So we have administrators, educators amongst us. So we have students. A majority of our audience consists of educators. We have a number of administrators as well. So there is a fair representation of the education ecosystem that this conference is trying to target. Okay, thank you everyone for going on to the website and answering the questions. New experience, networking and knowledge. New and exciting topic to talk about, definitely. New insights on the way ahead for education. That's absolutely right. What is the future of education? Knowledge. It's very encouraging to see that the audience here come from the right background with the right expectations. We have a huge number of things to learn and discuss today, and I'm really looking forward to the next 3 hours. Thank you so much, everyone. Over the past 2 days, we have not only had distinguished speakers and guests who share their perspectives and brainstorm solutions to challenging problems in education today, but we also had young researchers and students share their ideas through various paper and poster presentation events. Multiple hands-on workshops and knowledge sharing sessions focused on topics such as diversity and inclusion, the new national education policy in India, emotional and personalized learning, future of work and education, and the impact of technology on all of the above. A huge shout out to our sponsors, without whom this entire conference and the effort put in would not have been possible. A huge thanks to our main sponsors, Efficacy, a biostatistics and statistical programming service provider, and the Bluebell Schools for Integrated Learning, which is an initiative of the Bluebell Group Schools, a premier education provider in Gurgaon. Shout out to MVJ Group of Institutions for partnering with us, and of course, Nubia Bakeries for their delicious goodies. Thanks to partners Jyoti Nivas Autonomous College for supporting us in many, many ways, and the Brightside Foundation as well. A special thanks to the extended Silray team, their friends, families, without whose unconditional support, all of this would not have been possible. Like I said before, we have a bunch of exciting talks, panel discussion, and roundtables lined up for the next 3 hours. And let me take this opportunity to call upon Kausar Zehra, account manager at Silray, to formally kickstart the session with her opening remarks. Kausar is a fun-loving, vibrant person who strongly believes in the potential of education in creating a bright future. Over to you, Kausar.
Okay. Hello. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm excited to see you all here as this is the final session of the conference. On behalf of the Silray team, I would love to welcome all the eminent speakers and guests from all over the world who have come here to share their knowledge and vast experiences with us at Splendor 2021, a virtual inclusive international conference on the future of education. It is a part of Education is Changing webinar series curated by Silray. I am Kausal Zehra, account manager at Silray and the coordinator of Splendor. Silray is a renowned educational organization that has been in operation for over a decade. You are probably wondering what the word Silray means. Silray means learning in an artificially engineered language called Lojban. Silray is an organization that aims to have an education system which allows the learners to explore, engage, and experiment with an optimistic approach by the facilitators. When the world was struggling through the pandemic, Silray reached out to underprivileged, low-income private and government school kids through our project called The Giving Tree. This project is a non-profit initiative that offers free English language programs, which serve as a tool for kids to better understand other subjects. Silray is also involved in other projects too, such as Project Unschool. It is an online alternative school that promotes child-driven learning. Well, Splendor is the new addition to Silray, where Splendor aims at bringing together speakers, educators, students, and parents from all over to engage in meaningful discussions on the future of education, especially in today's scenario where the entire education system is changing drastically. Splendor will help us open up new ideas, thinkings, and will attempt to provide a fresh start for various discussions on the future of education. It will also increase the reach, impact, and implementation of the creation of new thoughts and ideas. Splendor offers a unique opportunity to understand perspectives, brainstorm solutions to challenging problems. It will also initiate collaboration and future engagement. We have been working on Splendor for past 4 months. It has been a roller coaster ride for the entire Silray team, from the time where we brainstormed the name of the conference to reaching out to various peoples and companies to share their thoughts and ideas on various topics on this platform. But seeing it being executed so flawlessly over the last 3 days, it has been an immense pleasure to see Splendor growing up. I feel like we have sowed a seed and now it has grown into a large fruit-bearing tree through which hundreds of people have been benefited. This conference is only the beginning of many opportunities, and Silray will facilitate many meetings and discussion with focused groups to continue the ideation and collaboration generated by this conference. Make an effort to participate in this discussion and then apply what you have learned to make a difference. Silray is excited to accompany you on your journey. In this slide, today's session will feature a variety of interesting talks by our distinguished speakers as well as panel discussions, moderated by some of the industry's most influential figures. Last but not the least, an mesmerizing musical performance by Hollywood performer Mr. Yogeshwaran. Doesn't it all seem interesting? So get ready for a fun and informative conference that will include fun little games, activities, and a lot more. Once again, I thank each and every one present here. Even if it is virtual, I'm sure we will have a great time together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kausar, for giving us a sneak peek into what's in hold for us for the next 3 hours, and also for letting us know the amazing work Silray has been doing over the past couple of years. The intent of a nation's development and progress through education is largely incomplete without consciously designing relevant resources for inclusion and accessibility. A one-size-fits-all approach is very unsustainable, and it defeats the purpose of having a common system education. The same idea applies to play as well. The benefits of playing to a child's social, emotional, and cognitive development is a very well researched and understood topic now. But despite this awareness, there is still a long way to go in designing play activities well for differently abled children. Fortunately, we have people like Esther Harsani who are taking major strides forward through their work in this area. A quick intro about Esther. Esther is the CEO and founder of Nesting Play, a social enterprise based out of Hungary, which provide quality education services to all children through guided sensory-based play activities so that children can develop skills and competencies that help them succeed in school and eventually transform into responsible and productive citizens. stemming from her own son's special needs, she's gone on to work both in the corporate sector as well as the highest levels of the government in the field of inclusive play and education. She's been a recipient of multiple awards, including being on the list of Exceptional Women of Excellence in the year of 2019, an Ashoka Fellow in 2018 on the topic of inclusive playgrounds, as well as was awarded the Woman Entrepreneur of the Year in 2017. We're very honored to have you join us today. Over to you, Esther.
Thank you so much for the quick introduction. And before I jump into my presentation, just one quick remarks, what you said about play. So we are talking a lot about that how play can help having a joyful life of children, what play means in the life of these children. But let's think about those children who are not able to play for several reasons. And I'm not talking about because they don't have anything to play with, but that they are not able to play with. So I'm going to focus on my presentation for those kids who are not able to play because of several reasons. Can you share the presentation? Okay. So learning through play, as you will see in my presentation, it matters for everyone. And we need to focus on those children who are not able to play for several reasons. Next slide, please. So he is my son, Aaron. I use the word that he is a non-A4 child, or I would say that he was born with epilepsy. He's a little boy with invisible disabilities, with learning disabilities. This is what you can read on the researches or on studies that I call them non-A4 because it's much nicer than learning disabilities and invisible disabilities. What does this mean in everyday life? Now, let's stop that he's clumsy and that he has got attention deficit. He cannot join to the others' play activity. He has issues with language perception and language comprehension. Now, let's stop for a minute. Can you think about anyone in your family, in your neighborhood, in your friends, or in your class who is making you trouble, who sometimes you think about it, what can be the problem? That he doesn't give appropriate answer, that he or she is not able to play as the others. Can you recognize anyone who you ever worked with and you had the problem that you didn't find the best way to motivate, the best way to involve his or her into the fun or into the common activity? Next slide, please. So what is learning disabilities? I find a number that in India, children with learning disabilities is approximately between 5 and 15%. But it's very hard to say an exact number because these children have no diagnosis. According to the statistic, and this is not an Indian statistic, but it's a worldwide statistic, in every group of children, at least 40–50% of those children who has got invisible disabilities or who are non-A4, who has got invisible disabilities and learning disabilities. Who do we call learning disabilities? Children who has got organic problems, like my son who was born with epilepsy, children who are traumatized, children who are coming from a very poor environment. Bad nutrition also affects learning disabilities or invisible disabilities. Children who has got mental issues, also autism in some way, they also have invisible disabilities. Children who has got ADHD. So these are the big circle what we are talking about. Probably as teacher, you know very well that development is a law. A child does what he is able to do, and he doesn't do what he doesn't able to do. Now we need to focus on those abilities, what he is not able to do. And when we are talking about delayed development or developmental delay, where there is a gap that he or she should do at her age, his age, certain things, certain abilities, but he or she is not able to do so. So there is a gap between the adequate age abilities and what he or she is able to do. Next slide, please. So who are these children? What am I talking to? What am I talking to? I mean, as I said, they are clumsy. I mean, they cannot walk on stairs. They spills the water. You tell them that hold the glass in a different way. And he says that, yeah, I don't want to spill it, but still it's spilled out. They are oversensitive, don't like if their hands are dirty. Their behavior seems aggressive. And let me emphasize, they are not aggressive, but it seems that they are aggressive because they are frustrated. They can't play with their praise. They don't understand the speech. Let me tell you an example. If you tell to a child that raise your hand, and what can you see? He's not raising his hands, but he's making fun of the others. You can say that, okay, he doesn't want to raise his hands, or you can observe that maybe he's not able to raise his hands because his muscle doesn't allow him to raise his hands, or he doesn't understand what you are telling to him. Or when you tell your child, cross your arms like this, and he's not able to do so. It's because probably he doesn't understand what you are saying, or he has got problem with the body shape. He doesn't know where the crossings are. So this is the symptoms you can see, or this is what you can observe. And why play is important? Because you can see everything during play, how he or she is playing with others or not able to play with others. Next slide, please. So why is it a problem if we overlook these challenges, if we overlook these children? What can we experience if we overlook them? I mean, these children are the troublemaker within a group. They will be isolated, excluded from the fun, and what is the very most important, that they won't have successful school years. If we start to look at these children at the very early age, from 0 to 6, then we can help solve their challenges. Not everything, but at least we can support them weak abilities. If we are overlook these children, I mean, as you can see on the slide, at the end of the day, they will lack of education means poverty, and we cannot help them. And there is a statistic that those children who were not able to participate in proper early childhood intervention care, they are falling out from the school system at 11 years old. So can you imagine that what can a child do when he or she is only 11 years old? And your responsibility, I mean, teacher's responsibility is huge, because you are the one who are with the children, and you are the one who can observe, who can see what the problem is, and you are the one that you can help, you can support them develop their weak abilities. And I will tell you how. Next slide, please. So according to recent neuropsychological studies has shown that early life, like from 0 to 6, that's the most crucial years of a child life, because up until 6 years, you can develop the brain. You can have the the brain, it works as a stem, so you can have traces on the brain, and it can develop. After 6 years old, it is very difficult to develop a child. We don't say that after six years, I mean, if a child is 7, you don't need to focus that given child. We don't say that, but that it requires a completely different strategies. It requires a completely different cooperation with the child. But the early years are very crucial for this child. This is the most dynamic period of a child brains. And you can, as I said, at this age, an imprint can still occur in the areas of the developing brain when the needs to happen. And it's very important that you need, the sooner we realize that there is a kind of a delay, the child has the sooner, we might be able to help and support them in the areas where needed. Early recognition is very important. And your role as a teacher to understand the roots of that given problem is crucial. In such an early area, your support is close to developmental scissors. We are not saying that you need to become a special education teacher, but we are saying that you need to provide or give the best support for that given child. And don't forget that in every classroom settings, you play games which helps, you can play games which helps the development of these children. For example, if you see that at the 4 years old child is using very, very few verbs like drink, sit, stand, something like that, then you need to be suspicious that something is not okay with his play. So what we are saying, if that there is a weak ability like speech, then you need to focus on other things. And you can observe so many things by he or she is playing. If you see that the child is playing alone, you cannot say that, oh, okay, he or she is playing alone. That's fine. I don't need to do anything with her because she's okay. No. And then someone is going there because someone wants to join her game and she pushes the other child away. You need to be suspicious that something is not okay with her speech perceptions, because probably she doesn't understand what the other students, what the other child wants to her. She doesn't know how to react. She doesn't know what to say. Or for example, if you see that there is a child who is not able to ask help, or she or he does everything herself, it's a sign as well, then probably there is something problem with her social and communication abilities. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So what do we do at Nesting Play? We have a methodology which shows you in 5 key areas. It guides you through that. How can you observe these children? How can you monitor these children? The one is play, which is, as I said, it's crucial. The other one is gross and fine motors, and then language comprehension and perception, social and communication, and perception and sensory integration. What we teach to teachers is that you need to observe the child in a very complex way. That, as I said earlier, everything is connected with everything. If you see, as I said, that if you, for example, if you see that a child is sitting in a circle and she or he is not able to hold his body, that he is not something, you know, a naughty boy, but probably he has got problem with his body shape. And why is it important? Because if a child doesn't have if a child doesn't know what is before and after, then this child will have problem with language perception. He or she will have problem with literacy at school. If a child have problem with the quantity, then probably he or she will have problem with numeracy and school. And we are talking so much about the importance of literacy and numeracy, but we always forget that there are symptoms what you can support in a very early age, which helps the development of literacy and numeracy abilities. Next slide, please. So therefore, we developed an application. This is a web-based application, what you can use online and offline, because we were preparing this application for underserved communities as well. And we actually digitalized our methodology. We are guiding you through a monitoring system, that what you can see and how you can observe the child. Maybe at the first time you can feel that, oh, it is so overwhelming. What can I do? I have 30 more children. How can I observe these children? But you are monitoring these children anyhow, since this is your most important task as a teacher. So the app is just only helping you to see these children in a different way, to see the complexity between the different abilities. So you shouldn't be scared and shouldn't be saying that, oh, this is overwhelming, I cannot do this because it is so complicated. Actually, it's just a few minutes to observe this child. However, we are saying it that you should observe children for a longer period, because, you know, they are playing in different circumstances, they are playing with different objects, and you can observe these children for 1 or 2 weeks to see the complexity of the weakening abilities. And how can you develop these children? I mean, also in the app, you can find games what you can play with a group of children, because what we are saying is that you need to solve, you need to support these children within the classroom. The app helps you to support these children, and the app is offering you games what you can develop the children. If, for example, the child has got problem with creative speech, not able to tell a story, then you can choose from the wide selection of our games something what is developing the creative speech of that given child, and what is good for her, it's also good for the whole group. So it's not something that you are pointing out to these children that, okay, he or she is the troublemaker, he or she is the trouble one, but it's also fun for everybody. So let me tell you an example. Let's say that there is a child, as I said, who is not able to tell a story, who has got problem with language comprehension. Then you say that, okay, let's use a huge paper, and let's say that the butterfly is flying over the city. So what the butterfly can see from the top of the sky, and then you start to draw that, okay, there is a building, there is a car, there is a bus, there is a mother, there is whatever. And each child needs to say 2 sentences about what the butterfly is seeing. You see, it's so easy. So it can develop those children who has got problem with creative speech, and it's also fun for the whole group. Okay, more information. Next slide, please. So more information you can find in our website, and I also happy to share more experiences with you through email, or yeah, you can reach me through email or through the website. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther, for educating us about invisible disabilities and highlighting the need of early diagnosis and how it's important that we as stakeholders, teachers, parents, modify and tailor the process of learning through play so that no child is left out. Thank you so much. A quick reminder to all our speakers. I request all of you to speak a little slowly so that our ISL interpreter can follow throughout. Thank you once again. I grew up listening to this very famous Sanskrit proverb from my grandparents, which goes, Kakacheshta Bakodhyanam Shwananidra Tathaavacha Alpahari Brahmachari Vidyarthin Panchalakshanam, which loosely translates to perseverance of a crow, concentration of a swan, and being as alert as a dog and eating healthy are some of the most important qualities necessary for a student's success. The intent behind this proverb was to highlight the importance of discipline in the process of learning. But we as an ecosystem took this one step forward and designed a system of education having a common exam-based metric for evaluating student ability and learning outcomes. Over the recent years, there has been numerous studies undertaken to look into rethinking about effective assessments. And today we have with us a very distinguished panel of speakers to share their perspective and ongoing research in this particular area. Let me take this opportunity to introduce our panel first. First off, we have Parul Bajaj from Tata Trust. She has been working for the last 5+ years with the education portfolio of trusts in a program management role. She has studied computer science engineering and has an MBA from India's premier institutes, including NSIT Delhi and IIM Bangalore. Before Trust, she had worked in research, product, and program management with the education organizations like Agastya Foundation, Aspiring Minds, iDiscovery, and other educational initiatives. With 10+ years in education, she has also worked in technology companies for 5+ years. She stays very passionate about improving the quality of education at scale. Next, we have Dr. Preeti Shirodkar. She has a PhD in English language and literature from the University of Mumbai with over 28 years of experience in teaching the same. She is currently an associate professor with Kohinoor Business School. She has conducted numerous training programs in the areas of communication, soft skills, gender, and English literature for organizations like the RBI, NUDB, India Rare Earths, Zycom, Hind Terminals, to name a few. And she's also delivered talks and conducted workshops for several institutions of repute like the Bucharest University, Queen Mary and Westfield College, University of London, and University of Mumbai, to name a few. A fellow of the prestigious Indian Institute of Advanced Studies and an author of 7 books, Dr. Shirodkar is a recipient of many, many awards, amongst which the latest is the Best Teacher in Communication conferred by HEF. She is also extremely passionate about teaching, mentoring, editing, and creative and critical writing. We also have Ms. Rupa Arun with us. She's the founder, principal director of TCIS Bangalore. She's an academic designer, curriculum developer, and an author herself. She has contributed close to 3 decades to the field of education, including 2 fruitful terms with the ACT Department of Education in Australia. She has a double master's in journalism and education, recipient of the Changemaker Certificate for Digital Transformation of the Teaching Learning Community by Microsoft. She has also piloted many new educational practices and has implemented 100% of the new National Education Policy 2020 in its true spirit, and has shared her best practices with over 60 army and private school principals. Such a distinguished panel, and the discussion will be moderated by another uber accomplished person, Uday Shankar. Uday is a startup mentor who helps early stage entrepreneurs figure out their strategy, marketing, and fundraising plans. He has over 3 decades of experience in the technology space and co-founded his first technology startup way back in 1992. He has had multiple stints in venture capital as well. He's also the founder of a very well-known conference, the Goa Project, which brings together people from across professional backgrounds together to collaborate. He's a fragrance buff also who collects rare perfumes. Over to you, Uday.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes.
Thank you. So we have, as has been introduced, a very distinguished panel today, and we will be discussing, ideating, brainstorming, and hoping to come up with some ideas on how to take the notion of assessments forward. Assessments in our system are basically exams. And any system, whatever you measure is how the system itself evolves. And how the system has evolved is towards maximum scores, which rewards memorization, rote learning, and so on. Is that the best way to go forward? That's what this panel will be debating. We know that exams are extremely stressful, extremely painful events for some students. There have been cases of suicide. We need to figure out whether the assessments here are actually supporting the learning design outcomes, or are they working against it. Eventually, some of these assessments have to reflect in what the students go on to do. Do the assessments support the students in their quest for a job and in their career? We will discuss this. Perhaps I will start by asking the panelists to lay out their initial thoughts first. Could we start perhaps with Rupa? Rupa, could you talk a little bit about what your ideal assessment design would be? Can we do away with assessments entirely? Or how can we tweak the existing system to best serve the overall societal needs? Rupa?
Thank you, Uday. It's fantastic being on this platform. And I think unlike most people who would perhaps be coming from a school background in India, I completely oppose the kind of assessments that we've been having so far. And I think given a personal choice, I would like to completely do away with assessments, because I would like to not go very far, but just take the our MC Kausar when she was talking. When she did the opening address, she had spoken about, including a certain element of fun factor to this entire presentation, because that is kind of going to elevate the mind space in terms of happiness. And I think that's exactly where I stand. If children can be happy, they learn. If the experience of learning is happy, then that is when the entire aspect of learning is internalized. So I think personally, yes, no assessments as far as possible, but yes, definitely we need to track in terms of how the learning is happening. And there are definitely more than many ways to do the same. And that is what I would like to start with.
what would you think we should be measuring?
We should be measuring the process of learning.
That's an interesting takeoff point. Perhaps I will ask Parul Bajaj, our next panelist, to take us through what her notion of how assessments can help societal outcomes, how can they improve the quality of education, maybe evolving themselves in the process. Parul?
Sure. I had sent a slide as well. Can I share it myself, or okay, someone, the organizers are sharing. Yeah. So Uday, in sort of sharing some of my key thoughts around it, like as we are, talking about assessments and say fear. I mean, as we talk about rethinking assessment, it's interesting to see how we think about it today. And as can be seen from what's been shared so far, it's fear presently, which often comes up when we think about assessments or testing. So I think when we talk about rethinking assessments, instead of the present way in which the assessments work against us, we have to look at ways in which assessments work for us. And I feel that if done rightly, assessment can be a great feedback tool for the learning process itself. Also, how do the different stakeholders look at assessments, right? Like say if I am a school teacher, and if say the school management is going to judge me or reprimand me basis the kind of assessment results my class is showing, I would naturally be scared of it. But if I am supported in a way that I can look at how does assessment help me improve the teaching of my class itself, it could be something very constructive. So I think, how assessments get perceived, how they get done, what's the cultures we create around assessments matter much. Like the way Rupa just said, the process part of the classroom, right? When we look at new frontiers of assessments are now coming down to, can assessments measure what's happening in the classroom? What kind of activities are happening? So, so I feel that assessments themselves are in a stage of evolution, and per se, they are not good or bad. It's a lot about how they are looked at and how they are conducted. And yes, probably till now, we've looked at it in a very fear-based way, probably in the way they've been done. There are new frontiers that await us, right? Like what would assessments mean for gifted children? What would they mean for gifted programs? I work in this space of, large-scale government systems, and I can't emphasize enough in such centralized systems, also large-scale, there is a need for assessment because, like is often said in quality, right? Whatever gets measured gets improved. So, for a large system like the government, sometimes assessments are imperative to, get a sense of whether, one district is doing better than the other, one state is doing better than the other or not. And I must say in the last 10-15 years, our government systems have opened up to sort of being more open to large scale assessments. And I think at one level, this needs to be welcomed, right? Because the system is agreeing for a mirror which helps us see whether children are learning or not. And in any learning discussions, the ASER reports often get quoted, right? Because those are an objective measure of what, say, the learning levels or are not. So I can't sort of emphasize enough the need for large-scale assessments in large-scale systems like the government. And yes, while we are opening up to them, there are things to, improve there, right? Like we need to build capacities in our state governments to be able to conduct assessments themselves. We need that the assessments be contextualized to the context of the particular state or, or the particular school boards and things like that. The last aspect I want to touch about is, how much technology itself can help us in different ways when it comes to assessments and the future of it. Like, for example, recently Pratham has put out all of its very good assessments in the open source. And the IP cost of creating assessments itself is a deterrent when it comes to, implementing large scale assessments. But, by putting out good assessments in the open source, we could help them have a greater outreach. We could have a lot more scale to them. Also, good assessments sit on a lot of data, so you might have administered a particular question, and you might have years of data about, while you perceive the question to be difficult, in actuality 10,000 children who took it, whether they found it difficult or not. So data can really help us make our assessments a lot better. And the last bit is the ability of technology to personalize assessments. I think one of the reasons we fear assessments is because our skill and the assessment does not match. But adaptive assessments can help us. It would start with giving me a question that I am at a level of, and basis whether I get it wrong or not, either give to me a harder question or an easier question. And it is known in research, whenever the gap between my skill and my challenge is lessened, there is less of frustration that I feel with the task. So I think assessments per se are not good or bad. It's largely how we execute them, how we make them work for us and not against us.
Great, thanks, Parul. There are some fascinating things you raised, especially around scale, which in a country of 1.3 billion with hundreds of millions of students in the school system, in college, in higher ed, and so on. But I'm going to ask our final panelist, Dr. Preeti, to chime in with her thoughts on what is the value of the notion of assessments in the first place. And when the notion of work is changing, how you work, what you work on, and what are the outcomes you work on, that's all in flux. How should assessments change, or should they change? Preeti?
Yeah. Thank you, Uday. See, according to me, assessments are necessary. Okay, it's just the brouhaha and the entire ghost-like image, and the larger-than-life image that we have drummed up around it, which is really the problem. It's not the assessment. Somehow, pardon my saying so, I know they may be a backlash with this, but I need to speak my mind. But somewhere, I have also found that, whether it is parents or whether it is teachers or whether it is the system itself, we are increasingly getting very protective. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to fail students. We don't want to do this. We don't want to, affect their self-esteem or whatever else. I am all student pro, okay? But the fact remains, we have to prepare them for the real world. That is the objective of education. And I'm at the end point where students go directly into the industry. And believe me when I say today, and I don't think I need to, I've convinced you about it, but the industry is ruthless and it is going to remain ruthless, right? So somewhere by overprotecting and shielding and putting a fear, it is really not going to help. Having said that, I would totally agree with your opening remark where you said that rote learning is the detriment or the bug which is affecting assessments today. Somewhere I have found that the moment people come out of the exam hall, they can't remember what they had learned, quote unquote. So I think it is the problem is we definitely need assessments. We definitely, like Rupa was saying, need to assess learning. I just simply feel that the way we are doing it is where the problem lies. And I think if we can customize assessments and get them to assess not quote unquote rote learning, but get them to assess what people have actually absorbed, what people have actually acquired. So what is practical, what is applicable? I think if you assess that, then I don't think it is really too much of a challenge.
Great, thank you so much, Preeti. I want to just go back to one of the things that really caught my attention about the notion of skill, right? In our country, when we have hundreds of millions of applicants for a job, and I'm looking at primarily the role of assessments in figuring out how to hire from the employer's perspective over here. And I'm basing this on my conversations with people in hiring positions and senior HR positions for large government organizations, large technology organizations, which have hundreds of thousands of employees, right? To take one particular example, possibly, I don't want to name names, but it's easy to figure out which company this is. A large technology major based in Bangalore, which has over $8 billion in revenue. And it is a matter of record that their training cost is nearly 10% of revenue. That is, if their revenue is $8 billion, they're spending $800 million a year on training. Now, this is not because they want to do this. This is because the fresh graduates they are hiring do not have the capability to be productive in front of a customer on day one. Therefore, they're doing this because they cannot otherwise convert this employee into a productive resource. And to that extent, the system has failed them, right? The assessment system has failed them, I would say, more than the educational system, because it is the assessment system which is the final gate before these people enter the job market. So in that context, are we measuring the right things? And if not, what should we be measuring? Any one of our panelists, please.
If I could take that, because there's a book that I have written moving around this, okay, where I had also spoken to a lot of people who are employers, and their argument was, and which is something which I have also experienced. If time permits, I will also give you a real life example of it. But what I've observed is that students, for example, from Mumbai University, you can't say it's a Mofussil area or, you know, an unknown place. From Mumbai University, they have got a 75%, for example, in MCOM. And you ask them basic principle like debit and credit, or you ask them simple things like financial instruments, they can't name it. So I think what is being assessed is largely what people can mug up and write. A. B, what is being assessed is what people can leave for options, right? So if you see most of the question papers, you realize that there is a large chunk of the syllabus that can unfortunately be left for option, and you can still score 70, 80, 90. And the entire objective is scoring. So all the classes, everything, the exams, the teaching is driven towards getting the students to score. Yeah, we want to complete the syllabus, we want to get them to score, but that is somehow really not helping. So if you ask what should be assessed, there should be two basic things assessed. What is the learning and what are the skills acquired? And there are various ways to assess it. The simplest way to assess it, which is something which I've been doing in the last 5 years, is by trying to individualize assessment. It takes, I'm sorry to say, but a hell lot of effort on the part of the teachers. It takes a huge amount of effort. But my colleague Minoti is here on the call and she can bear testimony to it. That effort is ultimately worth it, because what you gain out of it is a real understanding of what the students have learned or not learned, the skill they have acquired or not acquired. So actual practicable application of learning and skills in the world as it exists, I think if we test or assess that, I think it works. At least for us, it has worked.
So given that it's almost received wisdom by now that we don't know what the jobs of the future are going to be. And by future, I will say that even 2 years out, we don't necessarily know what the jobs are going to be. Given that, what should we be assessing and how should we be doing it? Maybe Rupa, from your experience, can you talk a little bit?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things I would like to continue from the previous question and then get on to this.
Sure.
If that's fine. So going back to what you said, Uday, so there is a requirement for these large organizations to train people before they embark them on whatever platforms to complete their required job profile and deliver. So if I may just think about the process, I don't think they rely on what the fresh graduates or young children have come up with or learned in their schools, and then plan on what is required. They look at what the job requirements are and they work backwards in terms of whether these children know that, right? So the process itself of what we have done in the school and what we have assessed them for, and bringing them up to that level of saying that you are now an ex-qualified graduate and you take your process ahead from there. I think this entire time spent itself is a huge, sorry to be saying that, but I think it's a huge waste of time and effort and energy and years of people going over it. Now coming to this, so therefore, if you're having an assessment done to say that you know X things, and then you're saying this person is going for this job, but find that whatever you have assessed has not been of any use, and you're training that person, and that person is able to do or deliver with just the training received, I kind of self-explanatory in terms of what the process is all about. Now, the second bit where you are asking about, when we do not know what the future is about and what is it that we should be doing, taking these things ahead. I think essentially you need to just allow the children to experience different kinds of things, absorb in what they can at their individual aptitude levels, and find a way to channelize those aptitudes to the relevant jobs. I think that is what would be required, because again, when you are in that, you are brought into that elevated state of happiness in mind, that means the entire teaching, learning experience is very, very positive. It is automatically, imbibed by the child. And you will find that irrespective of the child, whether it is the regular category of children we are talking about, or you're talking about children who have got certain special needs, everybody responds better when the atmosphere of learning is focused on elevating and bringing you to that level of happiness, and it becomes a pleasure. I think that is what I would like to share.
Okay. Thank you, Rupa. Now, if one were to proceed on the assumption that one of the goals of this whole assessment process and assessment system is to serve society's needs, that implies that it needs to be inclusive, right? So perhaps, Parul, could you talk a little bit about what a truly inclusive assessment system would look like? And do we have one? And if not, how do we get there?
So I think a truly, I don't think we have an assessment system Uday today which probably caters to all kinds of inclusivity that we should have. There is definitely a recognition of making assessments inclusive on different accounts, and say if one looks at the different aspects, right? Like one would be, the different kind of learners themselves, right? So how you assess, say for example, making assessments that are compliant for people who have either vision difficulties or hearing difficulties. So one would be to sort of adapting your assessments and the administration for the different kind of special needs that exist. And the other and that's where, say, technology, I think inclusion in my view, to take out that assessment not being helpful bit, assessment feeling more as an instrument of threat than an instrument of enablement. I think that way is inclusion then needs to be looked at. The assessment should be inclusive enough to be able to understand very early on what kind of a learning spectrum you are on, and probably give you questions more around that, so that the assessments are more formative in nature rather than evaluative in nature. The I think the other aspect of inclusion would be sort of, being inclusive on languages, being inclusive on boards. So yeah, so it's sort of, yeah.
Great. So I want to tie this back to the earlier notion of scale that we were talking about, and also personalization, which more than one panelist brought up. It is at least theoretically possible to have mass personalization, where you could have some kind of customization of the assessment. But how would one then do that in a way that makes it possible to still attain, one, societal goals, and two, the larger goals of employers at large, right? So because the employer wants to be able to count on a certain level of proficiency in whatever it is they're hiring for when they hire someone. So if they have to spend even more effort than they're spending today, which they don't want to do, but they're forced to do, I don't think that's a step forward. So how would then employers be able to spend less effort, but still be able to count on some level of proficiency? Well, what are your thoughts on that? Maybe I can ask Preeti to say something on this, because her last thing seemed to connect with this.
Yeah. So see, for example, I'll give you a very, direct example from what I'm teaching. I teach communication and soft skills. Okay. So usually, if you see the papers of the university or most of the things, the questions asked are, what are barriers to communication? Okay. Explain the barriers to communication or define the barriers to communication. Now, where we have moved is we are asking them, based on the barriers taught to you, cite an example which you have faced. And in the light of the new knowledge you have acquired, how would you tackle it? Or we give them a situation and say, this is a barrier that has occurred in the industry where you would be joining. And if you were to tackle it, what would you do? Now, on the one hand, you are getting people to think and not, pour out or, sorry to use the word, but literally vomit out what they have rote, learned, or mugged up, right? I'll give you a very, very, and ultimately that same thing. Now, for example, some of our students say, can we send a video on that? Okay, send a video. Can we send a written piece on that? Okay, send a written piece. Can we send a PPT on that? Yes, send a PPT. Let me begin by just, taking Parul's inclusion point a step ahead. One of my biggest shockers, I started teaching at 21. And when I started teaching, one of my most heart-rending moments in the first year that I was teaching was, I was in a class of 100 students, and I asked, I was teaching them phonetics, where you teach sounds and the way the sound is scripted. And one of the boys, put his hand up in the class and he said, ma'am, I didn't understand. Let me talk about the temperament of teachers. I was a teacher and I told them, I said, don't worry, for you, that will not be included in the assessment. Okay, so your marks will be adjusted elsewhere, although the paper will be common. That was my response. And to that, he said to me, but ma'am, I haven't understood. And when I got out of that class, one whole day, 24 hours, I was very distressed. I said, listen, here is a visually challenged child. Like our Esther was saying, we are not trained as teachers to deal with this diversity. And I did not know what to do. Then I came up with an idea. I sat him down on a bench, I held his hand, and I said, see, when you write the letter A, you write it in a particular way. And when you write it as a symbol, you write it in another way. I held his hand and rewrote it 4 or 5 times. And then he said, now, ma'am, I understand. But somewhere, we are not trying to see whether people have understood. We are trying to, for the pattern, 10 chapters, complete the exam, carry on, push the people into the next year. Now, that is really not helping because their learning is not taking place. So I think if we customize, there are different ways to customize, and technology, like Parul said, is one of them. But even if not technology, in paper and pen, there are multiple ways to personalize. And I think the best way to personalize is check understanding of the concept, of the idea, of the principle, rather than testing the principle itself. Because believe me, Uday, I'm 51 today, and I still don't know where I can apply a plus b the whole square. I can still tell you it's a square plus 2ab plus b square, but I don't know even today where I can apply it. So it's a failure of the system. Okay, it's a failure of the assessment system. I definitely passed the exam, and in my times I got a 70 plus, so which was very high. So technically the system is failing us. It's failing us in a big way. And I think if we personalize, we assess what people have absorbed rather than what they have learned, and I think we will go ahead with it.
Right. So yes, Parul, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think Uday, I would also like to add here, while a large form of assessments, we might have seen sort of test for rote memorization, but having worked in assessment companies, I can tell you that there is a lot of effort happening. Like, say, for example, if you look at some assessment companies like Educational Initiatives, which probably is one of the oldest K-12 assessment company that we have in the country, they have been created just with this very ambition of testing for understanding and not testing for rote memorization. So all I want to bring in is that possibilities exist within assessments to test for the right kind of things in addition to the knowledge one may have gained. So I just wanted to make that point.
Sure. So,
or another example I'll take, Uday, from the employability space. Right now we have a form of assessment called situational judgment testing. So in that kind of thing, say if you want to test behaviorally, how would one candidate respond to a situation compared to the other, and so you have this format called a situation judgment testing. So and that gives you a better marker of how the candidate might do eventually when you employ the candidate. So all I want to bring in is that the challenges that we face with assessments are something very much people working in assessments recognize as well. And like everything is a work in progress, so there are attempts to sort of make assessments serve the learning needs better.
Sure. So speaking from my perspective as someone who has founded a few companies, and from a industry/practitioner viewpoint, the two-step process I would use to evaluate this is, firstly, the testing for learning rather than testing for memorization is a great goal to have. The systems that are being developed for that, do they produce the desired outcome, is my first part of the test. Can they scale is the second part of the test, right? So because as we earlier discussed, we have literally hundreds of millions of people in the system. And since on this distinguished panel, I think Rupa is the one who comes from the K-12 world, which can be looked at as the feeder to all of these other later systems of assessment. Rupa, what do you think should the assessment system be, or what should it evolve into?
So couple of things which I had practiced as once the head of one of the schools, I would like to share that. But before that, I would like to very briefly share a very small story of a person who perhaps has never gone to school, but has made his life the best, quite simply because he learned everything by seeing and was never under the pressure of being tested in terms of what do you know and how much do you know, and how is it that this person transformed himself into such a huge businessman, for example. So this is about, I'm sure many of you would have known, a person by name Babu Rao in Hyderabad, And when you click Babu Rao and then you look at Nilofer Cafe, it talks about how he currently supplies about 500 breakfasts for cancer patients in Nilofer Hospital, Nilofer Cancer Hospital. And he was, when he started his journey, a sweeper in one of the tea stalls. That's how he started. Now, how is the relevance and why are we talking about him here? I think his entire experience has been in terms of every time he saw people do a job, and what he learned in terms of his observation and what he imbibed in himself. Because I think it's a foregone conclusion. I think human being as a being is very curious, and then it just takes the right kind of um, inputs to keep that curiosity flame going. And how he observed things and how he moved on to learn the tricks of the trade, and how he learned to manage to grow from a person who was a cleaner boy to a person who owns different kinds of restaurants. And he's able to very categorically say that, the cost of the cup of tea that I serve in place X is only 25 rupees, because I do know that this is what those people can afford. And then I want to give them the best in the price that they can afford, to the same tea being served at a different price at a different restaurant, and it being served at 125, 75 rupees in Banjara Hills area, which is obviously the cream of the society lives there, who can afford that kind of, and payment. He's not been through any schooling. He's not been through any MBA course. He's not been through any of those things. Yet he is where he is today. And he proudly claims that this, it's not just that the free breakfast that he serves for patients who are, for people who are having patients admitted in the hospital and obviously can't care for themselves, but he's also talking about providing employment to so many of them. I think this is something that everybody should keep in mind in terms of looking at where this whole thing stands. Now, coming back to the school where I had, of course, we do go through assessments, because you're going through systems where these things are already in place. Like, this is the school and you have to have a system of education like this, and assessments are to be done like this. No, these are things which are already there when people like me have perhaps got into that particular job. So you do go through systems and see how best you can make changes so that it benefits the entire lot. And here I'm talking about the student population. So what did we do? Until grade 7, assessments, in the sense, there were like, questions being asked, but that was observed and recorded. Like Preeti was saying, that yes, you observe certain things and you personalize it. So without even having to go through something called a test, sit down and do a paper, or exhibit your learning in some form, it was continuously happening. It was a continuous assessment, ongoing assessments that happened starting from the child who was there in nursery all the way up to grade 7. While this was happening, there was an array of events and activities that the child was exposed to, where we could also observe where is the child coming up and showing an aptitude for being, whether it is in the area of sports, whether it is in the area of cultural area, or whether it is in the academics itself, which are all activity based, because activity is taking you through an experience. And so you're able to see how the child is able to look at things, come up with observations, share his observations, communicate, comprehend. So those are the aspects that I did until grade 7. We had no announced assessments. Now, yes, we did have assessments starting from grade 8 on, more so because it was pressure from the community, that is the parental community, or let's say the other societal community, or let us say the board itself, because there are certain things which are laid out and you're expected to follow it. And because of that, we had to start communicating or start having assessments. There again, the assessments, we tried to tweak it in such a way that it suits the belief largely. The teaching community largely believes that the students learn through visual, through auditory, through kinesthetic way of teaching. So if the teacher has decided that my child best absorbs things when I do it in ABC, VAK method, then I'll allow the child also to express what he has learned in the VAK method. So let me show you what I know, let me speak about what I know, all of what Dr. Preeti just spoke. So I love them to have that expression. And so we came up with projects where children could look at an immediate societal issue in the immediate society. That is where perhaps the facilitators played a role. They would come up with a situation where the child is expected to learn or use all the things that he has learned so far through various subjects and languages, and come up and say how he or she can either contribute to reduce the pressure of that particular problem or come up with a solution themselves. So that is how we did it in school. And well knowing that tomorrow, that is, I think the grade 9 to 12, children were already, we kind of exposed startup companies to come and speak to them during the summer practicum. And the promise was that whoever was accommodative enough would allow children of grade 9 to 12 to come to their respective area of work, whatever be the area of work, and just watch. And at the end of those 105 hours is what we had stipulated during the summer vacation that they would do this. They would only go back and tell the person, the startup person or the company person, what their observations were and what is it that they know about what this person is doing. And that was supposed to be the certification or the assessment, saying that, okay, the child has been able to observe so many things and, absorbing these features of the startup. So I think that is what we did in school. And I think that is where the school should be focusing on. Going back to what I said, make the experience of learning better rather than focusing on the quantity of how much the child has learned.
Thank you, Rupa. We're running short of time, folks. So let me just summarize what we've discussed so far. It's been a fairly wide-ranging and erudite discussion. The high points for me are, yes, we do need assessments. We need them to scale. The current system does not seem to be the best possible system. There are alternatives. There are alternatives that are being worked on, non-traditional alternatives. The proposed NEP also allows for this. But one thing I would like the panelists to think about, there are people who are in the education space in the audience and others who will be accessing it via recording in the future. What would you like them to go away with from this session? Perhaps we can do a round robin of the panelists very quickly, starting with maybe Preeti.
What I would like them to go away with is to understand that assessments are not to be feared if they are students and parents. If they are teachers, I would like them to understand that it is time we did away with traditional assessments and see how they become more individualized, practicable, and applicable. So these are the takeaways for me.
Thank you, Preeti. Parul?
Yeah, I would probably add to Preeti's. What Preeti said would have been my first point as well. And I'll just add to that to say that whenever assessments are being implemented, make all stakeholders. So if it's a school implementing, then make the teachers understand the value the assessments have and make them look at it as a force for learning rather than a force against learning. So do enough of, get everybody on board when you do assessments.
Thank you, Parul. Rupa?
Yeah, I suppose I would agree with both of them. And if we can manage to make assessment seem seamless, and if we can manage the outcome of assessments not being judgmental, and if we can make assessments as part of learning itself and make it the process, I think definitely things will be absolutely fantastic. And I would like to add that this process in many aspects has been followed in the spirit, and I have seen the results. So that gives me the impetus to go for it.
Great. Thank you so much, folks. This has been an educational experience for me as well. And I hope this leaves people attending the session with some food for thought. Thank you for attending. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Ms. Parul, Dr. Preeti, and Ms. Rupa and Uday for moderating such an insightful discussion. So from what we understand, the policymakers have taken a right step in designing something known as a new national education policy. Now, the challenge for us to implement it in a way that realizes the policy in its truest spirit. I will personally, along with everyone amongst the audience today, we will look forward to what and how this will be done. And with that, let's move on to the next event in today's session. Thank you so much to all our panelists once again. So it has been a very, very perceptive session so far with extremely pertinent topics that have been pondered upon. Once again, I'll take this opportunity to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Efficacy, the Bluebell Group of Schools, MVJ Group of Institutions for enabling and supporting such an amazing event. There's another thing that I would want to mention. We have something known as sponsor booths on the website, which you can go and check it out at the following link. In the meanwhile, if you want to go grab a bite, you might want to check out our delicacy sponsors, Lubia Bakery, and then you can thank us later for the treats that you'll indulge in. Thank you so much. Can we have the next slide, please? We have a bunch of questions that we want to ask from the audience to gauge their experience so far and to understand, are there any other specific questions that they want us to answer, right? Can we have the Mentimeter slide on the screen, please? All right, so the sponsor booths can be checked out at the link that is in the chat box. It's silray.com. You have to go onto the Splendor website and there you can check out our sponsor booths. With that, thank you so much once again for all the panelists. And I just got a question for Esther. So Esther, if you're on the call, the question is as follows. Why is it that we see that some tolerant children, they grow to become conservative adults? What is your take on this particular topic of discussion?
Could you repeat it, the first half of your question, because I didn't get it?
Yes. The question is, why do some tolerant children grow into conservative adults?
I mean, but I'm not sure that there is a scientific explanation for that. But I mean, these children who has got, first, to be tolerant is very tiring. I mean, if you are working in an inclusive class setting, and then, you know, there are children who need to take care of the others. And then sometimes they go to there that I don't want to do it anymore. And then you as a teacher ask why? Because it's very tiring. So that can be one reason. My child is in an inclusive setting. He's in an inclusive school setting, and it's very difficult. I mean, the four of them are under the same table, and three of them must look after him. It's bloody tiring for 8 hours. So maybe that's why, that they are just fed up with always being tolerant. And I think that is a key message, that we shouldn't let children who has got learning disabilities or who have got special needs education, we shouldn't let them to overrule everything, because the other have got feelings, the other have got everything. You know, it's just these are just children. For example, my son, the smallest one, Aaron, who you saw on my presentation, he loves to touch everyone. And then I always tell to the other children that you have to say that don't do it because it's not good for me. We need to teach these children that you don't need to accept it. You don't need to be tolerant in a way. I mean, of course, you need to have empathy that these children have got challenges, but you don't need to accept it just because they have got challenges. You are a child. You need to be happy, and you need to learn how to say no. And I think that can be a reason that they become a very conservative adults. That no one told them that you can say no anytime. It's not a problem. It's, it's not going to kill anyone if you say no, because it's not good for me. And also for teachers, so many times we heard that, how can I say no to those children who have got problem? And we always tell them that you need to say, this is the rule. The rule is that don't step on my doorway, whatever. You need to learn how to say no. You don't need to pity them, because they need to learn how to cope with their challenges. And this is the best you can teach them, that there are boundaries. Everyone has got boundaries, and those who have got challenges, they need to accept that they cannot do whatever they want, because they are part of the whole society.
Thank you so much, Esther. I completely agree with you. It's important to teach our children to be empathetic, but at the same time, also understand how and when to say no when they are forced to do something that they believe is not right. Thank you so much for your answer once again. Let's move on to the next event today. Talking about art, art is often understood to express that which cannot be put into words. Art and theater education can help spark a child's imagination or ignite a lifetime of passion. You never know. We are very honored to be joined by Shravan Devarakondaramani, mime and theater expert from London in the United Kingdom. A quick introduction about Shravan. Shravan graduated in electrical engineering from Tamil Nadu before he moved on to study mime art from his guru, Arusam Madhusudan, at the Indian Mime Academy in Hyderabad. He is the founder and artistic director of Matrix, a mime and body theatre company in Chennai, Tamil Nadu. He has done more than 600 shows and has trained more than 5,000 students and 1,000 adults for various performances in the field of mime, shadow theatre, and pantomime. Recipient of the Mahamnataka Nakshatra Award in 2014 for his contribution to the field of theatre. His vision is to make education easier through entertainment and also spread and revive the art of mime and shadow theatre through young minds. Thank you so much once again, Shravan, for joining us. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Thanks for the. Am I audible, first of all?
Yes, Shravan, you're audible.
Yeah. So thank you for that wonderful introduction. So, and I have my team here too. His name is Vasant. Vasant, can you switch on the camera if you can able to hear me? Yeah. His name is Vasant. He is the managing director for Matrix Performing Arts. And there's one more guy. His name is Raj Kumar. He is my teammate. He's an actor who recently joined our company. Okay, so before we start, I will just want to add on the points that the introduction that happened. Okay, so I listened to some of the speakers that previously had spoken. It's very nice, and I'm honored really with a huge round of the specialists in the education fields are here. And trying to change something in the education field, the system. So I'm just a small part of it. We are just starting out it, and then we will let you know how we are trying to do it. Okay, so a big hi to everyone. So this is how we started a company. So Matrix Performing Arts started as a mime company, as in like mime, as in like we don't speak, but we only act through action. So we communicate everything through action. So in 2009, we performed in IIT Sarang. That's where the Mr. Mithran Devanesan, who saw us and then asked us to start a theatre group. And then from there on, we started performing across Chennai, Tamil Nadu, and then we started to perform in Karnataka, and then we went to Kolkata and performed, and then that's where we saw mime is not just an art which is there in one particular form, as like in Chennai alone or in Pondicherry, but it's everywhere across India, where in each state have different forms of mime, which is represented in different styles. For example, Chennai, we represent an acrobatic style. In Kolkata, they say Mukha Abhinaya, where Nati Shastra plays the major role. Whereas in Assam, it's again an acrobatic, full of performance where they jump over, roll over, they do rope climbing, everything they do it. In Kerala, it's different. So in Mumbai, in Maharashtra, it's different. So every state, the Natak and the Natya Shastra is involved inside, and then they show it in a different form. So mime is so huge. So to be very interactive, so did you get the understanding about what mime is actually, everyone? So I hope you all know it. So in France, it's completely different, where Marcel Marceau or Ethnie de Courant, all the mime form is about like completely with the ballet dance. It's an abstract from the ballet dance. That's how they use it. So here it's Nati Shastra. Okay. So I'll not bore much about the history of the mime, and to tell about my company. And then from 2009 till now, we have performed more than 600 shows. And then why did we go into schools? And what made us to change that way? We were just performing artists where we perform and then we come out. We go train school annual day programs for the school annual day programs, and then we just come out. So that's where our involvement was there. But in 2013, it completely changed when we met Mrs. YGP, the founder and the director of dean and director of the PSBB group of schools, where she said, like, Shravant, I have something in IIT Madras. There is a workshop. You just need to come and entertain the students, because they are attending the research program in science and development, where they have 1 month camp. They have to stay in IIT Madras, and then they have to learn many things. All the toppers in schools, they will come and learn things from the IIT professors. So why can't you come in one evening, and then can you please entertain the audience, the children? She said. I said, okay, I will come, but because I'm an engineer, I'm an electrical engineer. I'm proud to say that I'm an electrical engineer because I love to study. And then my field completely changed after that. It can be contradicting for you all. But because why it changed is like, I thought whichever from early stage, from my childhood, my learning pattern is completely different. My life changed because like when my brother told me that when you look at the question paper and if you know the answer, please have a smile on your face, and that made a huge difference in my life, because until ninth grade, to be real, I didn't understand until it was annual exam. Rest all the exams, I wouldn't score. Literally, I wouldn't pass. Okay, so I wouldn't get the grades at all. So it's not because I don't study. It's not because I can't study. It's because I'm not aware of what studies are, what it means to me, what people would think about me. So the society, everything that started looking at me as like, oh, you don't study, okay, you can't do this. Okay, you don't study, you can't play. You don't study, you can't get gifts. So all those things went into my mind, but the total understanding within me went different. Okay, if I avoid studies, then if I focus on the things which I like, I can do something else. But when my brother came and said, like, can I give you a piece of advice? So just think one thing, like, us, like, I know you can study well, I know you can do things well, but every time when you go into exam, when you look at something, any question that you know, have a smile on your face. So after that, I scored in 10th. I scored like I passed in first class, and then in 12th, I scored 78%. So like I'm not proud about the 78%, but I am proud about, like, I know something very well that I can do. So for me, learning is something like if you know something, be sure you know it. That's it. Very much. That's it. So for me, learning is like, even if I write one question, one answer to that question, and I score full marks, that's enough for me. And if, for example, if I write a 5-mark question and then I score 5 marks, I'm much happier. Okay, rather than getting 40% in two marks in each question, like I should know something completely so that I can explain to people and I could say to the people like I know this one. So that's when it changed. So back to IIT Madras story. So I told Mrs. YGP saying like, ma'am, I'm not here to entertain the students, but I will do it. But even I will teach the students that I want to show the students like I can involve education into arts. When I came into arts, there were a lot of training. The lot of training I went with famous gurus as like my mentors. They were really famous. They were into film industries. So the moment they taught me everything, it's like learning for me, where I involve everything as in like each and every education part into it. So whenever I study something, I relate to my day-to-day activities. For example, okay, in engineering, you all know this concept called induction motor. The little ones might have not known, but the adults who might knew this. Okay, induction motor. Have you all heard about this concept called induction motor? Do you know anything about induction motor? Okay, to be very simple, a motor which is in the fan, that we have the fan in our house, right? That's an induction motor. Okay, you know how my professor taught me. Okay, if you want to know the principle of induction motor, this is how it goes. If a dog trying to catch its own tail, it will have this rotation. Okay, but it will never catch the tail if it's a shorter tail. So it will keep on running round and round and round and round in circles. That's how the fan works. Did you get the point? So once it catches, and then the fan stops. Okay, the moment you switch it off, it catches. The moment you switch it on, electromagnetization, again it ripples and then start rotating. So this is the concept. Everything has a story. Each and every element, every concept has a story. That's how I believe, because story is everything. It's not about like one of the speaker was telling me, I didn't understand where did I apply my studies. Mathematics, algebra, a plus b the whole square. Where did I apply it? It's not that where did we apply. It's that we applied and we are not aware of it. Everything, each and every concept. Okay, I'll tell you where the a plus b the whole square is applied. You know, the farmer is putting the fence across his field, around his field. That's where the a plus b the whole square is applied. Very simple. And the farmer knew it, but he doesn't know what a plus b the whole square is. He doesn't need to know what a plus b the whole square is, but he understands the concept, and he says, okay, there are 4 acres. Okay, 4 acres per acre, this one. Okay, let me share one story. Okay, when I was studying integration and differentiation in 8th or like 9th or 10th grade or 11th grade, I don't remember. Probably to my knowledge, say 11th grade. Okay. Can you tell me can anyone please pop up and say me like, what is integration and differentiation? You all have come across. Where do you use it? I know only one person over here, is just Gauri ma'am. Okay, if you don't know also, it's fine, no problem. If anyone knows, please unmute and speak. I don't want this session to be like sleepy one. I want it to be something like energetic. Yeah. If anyone knew that, have you heard about integration differentiation? Yes or no?
Shravanth, yeah. I did the maths well until 10th standard, and in 11th and 12th, this integration and this trigonometry I didn't understand, so my maths went down. Until 10th, I was a topper. 11th and 12th, my God, toughest year in my academic life. Yeah.
No, even for me, like my teacher used to say like, Shravanth, you're one hell lot of person, please get out of the class. So that's how it happened. So but when I went out of the class, and there was one teacher who is a computer science teacher for me, he asked me, why you skip max classes? I said like, I don't understand anything. He says like, okay, it's very simple. And then he said like, I don't understand integration. So whenever this differentiation integration class comes, I will walk out of the class, or I will do something and I will go out of the class. At that time, this person watched me and told me like, do you want to understand integration and differentiation? It's very, very simple. He said like, sir, is it simple? Is that simple? Yes. Do you know, what do you like to eat? I said like, I like Maggie. He said like, that's integration. What? Yes, that's integration. And how? Do you know what differentiation? I said, I don't know, sir. Did you do your mother cook every day? I said, yes. How does she cook? I said like, she keeps a pot and then she pours rice and then she pours water and then that boils down and then it's done. The rice is done. I said like, how she checks the rice, and then it's like, she takes something from the top and then checks if it's boiled, and then she switches off the gas. That's it. So that's done. So that's differentiation. Like, is that so? We all heard some saying in Tamil, right? Oru paana sothukku oru soru padam. We say that, right? That's differentiate. That is differentiation. So out of one whole pot, we just take one rice and then check if it's cooked well, and then we assume that the rice full of pot is cooked. Simple concept. So out of whole thing, you just take one thing and you differentiate it. The differentiation is done. What is integration? You take vegetables. Say for example, all sizes of carrots, all sizes of beans, all sizes of cauliflowers. You put into something and then put Maggi into it, mix it, and then eat. Everything you integrate and then eat. That's integration, as simple. So how wonderful the maths class has turned out for me is like, after that I didn't skip math class. So everything changed my way, literally. And then that's when I used this concept in the IIT. That's the inspiration that I took to IIT when I started to perform. When we all started, instead of saying I should say like, my team has encouraged me a lot, because all are artists. We all are there's one fundamental ideology with everyone is like, okay, you're an artist, so that means you don't study well. Oh, okay, fine. Oh, you skipped something, so you came here. Okay, fine. So these are the assumptions that everyone had it. Even in my group, we had the same assumptions. So we asked, like, whenever I asked them to perform for production, they'll all jump around and come in. Now I will do it. Fine, we will do it. Even if it's a 1 hour production of mine, they will do it. They will rock it. If I say, if there's an education content, we have to perform and then we have to explain to the audience. That's when they say, oh, should I have to think? Okay, let me not do it. So, but when we started doing this process, I'll tell you, we stopped doing productions. We went into schools every day. We stopped doing productions, literally. We went into schools and took each subject, each concept, and then converted into day-to-day things that we are trying to do it, and then we performed. Okay, so let me stop talking, and then I will show you a small demonstration how we perform. Yeah. Okay, so I'll show you. Vasant, are we ready? Okay, we'll go concept by concept. Okay, this is an interaction. You people have to tell me what these people are doing. Okay, and then I'll tell you what I'll tell you. I know Gauri ma'am, I was shown some of the presentations to you. So if you know it also, please don't say it. Okay, fine. Okay, Vasant, are we ready? Unmute, Vasant. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Ready? Okay. So everyone watch this presentation. Can you? Okay, we are in the frame. Okay, so watch this presentation. This one concept. After you watch, I'll ask question. Okay, serious question.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, go ahead, Likita.
Is that okay?
In the interest of time, we can probably have another 5 minutes for this particular event. Is that okay?
Yeah. Did I speak too much so that the time went away?
It was very, very interesting. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start. Vasant, start. Yeah. Okay. So did you all see? Okay, one tell me what happened in the story. Can anyone tell me, please? Morning routine, perfect. Yeah, and then getting up late. Yeah, perfect. And then what happened? Okay. So I'll just quickly run through the sessions that what happened. Okay. So there was a person who was sleeping and the alarm ring. Did you guys notice that was the alarm? Yeah. So the alarm rang and then like he was waking up and then he ran and then he didn't switch off the alarm and then he switched off it and then he was doing his morning routines and then when he went out the door was stuck and then he hit and then that came back, banged him again and then he then called the Ola or the Uber and then the car came in and then the car got stuck in between and then the both try to push out. So there's a normal routine, like everyday scenario, which will happen to some other person, right? But there are a lot of actions happen. It was really good. Thank you so much. So, but there is a concept in this. There is Newton laws. There are Newton laws, the 3 laws, which is in this performance. Okay. So the first law, Vasant and Raj, we don't need the music, just the performance. The first law of Newton's law, what it says, when a body which is in a state of rest will be in a state of rest unless and until it is acted upon by external force. The external force is an alarm. So the alarm, which is in a continuous motion, will be in a continuous motion unless and until we go and switch it off. Okay. So this is Newton's first law. This we do in everyday day-to-day scenario, like every day, literally. Okay. So the Newton's second law, okay. I'm going to do Newton's law. Okay. So the third law, you all know, which is very pretty simple. We all remember this, right? We all remember this. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So when he's trying to push, he couldn't. Every action doesn't have a reaction. So, but now it has an equal and opposite reaction. That's it, done. So the second law. So this is the third law. Okay, what is second law? It's very simple. If you know the if you know the mass of the body and the force applied, then it accelerates. What it means, when your cycle get punctured, you can tow yourself, right? You can apply force and then move it. But and then say if your bike gets punctured, yes, you can tow it, you can move it, you can push it out. But if your car gets stuck, unknowingly or knowingly, you know the mass of the car and you know that one person couldn't push it, so the other person goes for the help and then he tries to push it, so that force is equal to mass into acceleration. That's it, done. The 3 laws are explained in just 1 minute, done. Okay, for this scenario, if we explain like this through an act, the act is remembered and so the law. So this is how we work. So did you all understand?
Yes.
Okay. So did you get the point? It's very simple. It's as simple as that. Okay. So do you want us to show one more performance? If we have time.
So Shravan, first of all, thank you so much. This suddenly made me wish that I had teachers like you teaching me chemistry when I was in school. It would have made life so much easier. So thank you. We will have the rest of your performance at the end of the session. We have a music performance and we can have a mind performance alongside as well.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay, fine.
Thank you so much, Shravan. Thank you so much, Shravan and his team, for demonstrating how beautiful education can turn out to be when taught through art forms. Thank you so much once again. Now let's move on to another beautiful art form, music. Music as an art form has always played an instrumental role in development of creativity and emotional intelligence. We are very happy to have with us today Hollywood singer and composer from Berlin, Mr. Manikam Yogeshwaran, to talk about the process of learning through music. A quick introduction about Mr. Yogeshwaran. His musical career spans more than 4 decades. Through childhood, he was trained in Carnatic classical music and Tamil Isai from his teachers, late Sangeeta Bhushanam S. Balasingam and late Sangeeta Bhushanam P. Muthukumaraswamy. He is a disciple of the world-renowned musician Padma Bhushan Sangeeta Kalanidhi Sri T.V. Gopalakrishnan from South India. Mr. Yogeshwaran is the coordinator for South Asian music and the co-artistic director at the Global Music Academy in Berlin. He also teaches Carnatic vocal, mridangam, and the flute at the academy. He performs in an eclectic range of styles with 2 of his own ensembles, Carnatic Music Ensemble to his collaboration with European musicians and Carnatic Comfort Zone with Western instruments. Yogeshwaran was conferred the prestigious Sri Jaya Chamaraja Vadiyar Centenary Celebration Commemorative Award for his significant services to Carnatic music on a global level in Mysore in 2018. He was the first Tamil voice to hit Hollywood and is well known for his concerts at international music festivals. We are super stoked to have you join us today, Mr. Yogeshwaran. Over to you.
Thank you so much for the very kind introduction. And it's been an honor to be asked to be in this platform. So would you please remind me how long I have for my presentation of talk?
You have 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay. Okay, that's helpful. Well, I could just quickly go through a long span of time of my music. I was born in Jaffna, Sri Lanka. I studied music through my school years. I was very fortunate to have wonderful teachers like P. Muthukumaraswamy sir and S. Balasingam. Then later, much later, I met my guru, Padma Bhushan, Sri T.V. Gopalakrishnan sir, and then I've been with him forever. And namaskaram to all my teachers and gurus and mentors. And also my very kind regards to all the participants and the experts who joined the conference for the last 3 days. Okay, after my schooling years, I started to sing, and then suddenly I found myself with a very, very busy schedule in Sri Lanka. I was singing so many concerts as a young team. Well, the reason I'm saying this, I began singing and started giving concerts without no formal training, but only with ear music. I could sing anything I heard, and this was my beginning. And then after performing so many concerts, one of my teachers told me, yeah, you are singing a lot, but I think you should also learn some basics and come to me, he said. I said, yeah, fine. Then I went to him and he taught me the basics of Carnatic music. Then so I developed gradually in the music. And then I moved to London in 1984, and then I started singing and teaching and organizing festivals in Carnatic music, basically promoting our music. Then I found myself in a 16-member choir, which was performing contemporary music, and composed by the two composers, Mr. Orlando Goff and Richard Hsu. And I was given a big book of score in front of me, which I had no idea what I was looking at that time, because I never learned staff notation. That was another challenge, but the group was very interesting. We went on very strongly with concerts, including BBC programs and very, very big festivals all around Europe and America. So I learned myself after I'd given these opportunities. Similarly, the recording field of that is the same story. So the reason I'm saying this, when learning, and you should have a thirst, and you should have an eager and mind should explore what is there to be learned. And it's not only the teacher, though that is vital and so important, and some of us are very, very lucky and some are not, but that's life. And then what music does to you by learning, you can not only learn, you can not only teach, and you can depart the knowledge by learning. Even a simple song could be learned over and over and over again, and then every time you teach, you find something new. It's incredible. My guru says, yeah, you're a student all your life, and you have to sharpen your knife every day, and then you don't know when the knife is needed to be used. How true. Then I come to Berlin 10 years ago. There was a group of people starting a global music academy, though they started before, but they were organizing a space, and they asked me to join. I joined. Is Mr. Andreas Freudenberg, Mr. William Ramsey, Mr. Dietrich Berlin, now the director of the institution, Simon Marbock. I was given a position as a coordinator for South Asian music, and I started teaching and collaborating with my colleagues in music performance, as well as teaching and part of the organization as well, shaping up the organization as well. Then I realized the work they were not only doing in Berlin, but they were doing in East and South Africa, in 10 countries, a huge program of music education. And I saw the results and videos. They don't go and teach music from somewhere else. They go and teach how the music should be taught, and they teach the tools of global music. So a person learning in that training could understand what is going on around the world and compete on a level. Compete is maybe not the right word, but you know what I mean. It's not about competition. It's about interweaving and in the training and see what is going on, and then how can bring our music to that same level of skills. Then in 2015, after 30 years of war in Sri Lanka, we could go back, and I went to Sri Lanka. I was finding the music situation there, and then 16, I dragged on my friend William Ramsey just to come with me, and then we went around the island and had a lot of interviews, met so many people, and then 2000, then I met the then Minister of Education, and I said, we should have some training in Sri Lanka. I think we could make a significant difference in the level of training, because that is, in our view, it's lacking in the whole island. And he immediately sanctioned a training program for 2 weeks. And 2017, we started a training in a beautiful highland, in a mountain in Norelia. They offered as a National College of Education building, and then they brought the top music teachers in the hierarchy, as you like, and then we trained them. And then, though it was very interesting, but as you know, working with governments can be not always the easiest. And then we shifted our focus to universities in 2018, We worked with 2 universities. One was in the Eastern University, Swami Bibulananda Aesthetic Studies, and then one was from Colombo. So that training is going on and at the moment with the corona, it has a pause, and we hope to continue. And one of my life's ambition is to found a permanent place for global music, so we can bring up music training for all peoples of the island, and also we can create a Sri Lankan identity of music. We have so many music. We have Tamil music, Sinhalese music, Burgess music, folk music. We have Vedas in the forest. They have music. We have even Telugu-speaking tribes living in the east of Ireland. So, and by the way, before I forget, I am here because of my very good friend, Mr. Yogi Seduraman, celebrated filmmaker and a television personality. And because of him, he said, "Oh yeah, my sister is doing this, and you should be there." And then he introduced to Madam Gauri, and I met all of you. So thank you for that introduction. I hope my training, my time is nearly up. I guess. So I have to close. I would say, for example, just one more point. When you teach music outside of our homes, our natural homes, for example, I teach attitude. For example, I don't teach the notation in the beginning for students. I teach Aram Seya Virumbu, Aram Seya Virumbu, Aruvatu Chinam, Aruvatu Chinam. So I teach the whole attitude into Maya Malavagalo Ragam. So children not only singing the notes without realizing they are singing Sarali Varsais, they are learning the attitude. Otherwise, they would probably not have the opportunity to learn attitude. So this is one of a very small example. I teach all children of all ages, and then I also perform. Now, currently, I'm doing a project in the University of Rostock. I'm teaching them to perform Carnatic music in May. And last week, a group of students came from University of Potsdam, and we had a workshop in Carnatic music. And one of those questions asked, can this music could be taught in German schools? Yes. Then I was answering, this music is for all. Like all music is for all. There's only one music with us different, like there's only one humanity. So there's only one. So this any music can be taught anybody. Like I learned myself many different music genres. So this was my answer, and I hope I have said something important for everybody. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Yogeshwaran sir. I personally have been trained in pure Carnatic classical music for over 10 years, and I could relate to you in a lot of thoughts that you shared. But having said that, taking one form of music and teaching it at a global level, yeah, outside your home country is indeed a great challenge, and we're so proud and happy that you've accomplished to do this so well at such an international level. Thank you so much once again. And for those of you who are wondering why did Yogeshwaran sir stop singing now, that's because we have a performance lined up at the end of the session so that we can enjoy listening to his beautiful voice and music for a longer period of time. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Most kind.
Okay, wow. Indeed, today's discussions and talks by our very distinguished speakers were super perceptive and very, very profound. Once again, I heartily thank all the participants for their infectious enthusiasm. Such a wonderful session. And what better than to have the founder CEO of Silre, Ananthi Balakrishnan, for her closing remarks on the conference Silre Splendor 2021. A quick intro about Ananthi. Ananthi is very famously known to be a hands-on CEO, having worked in all areas of running her organization from financial planning to operations. A topper herself, an electronics engineer turned educator, and a curriculum design expert, she has grown Silre into an organization with 40 facilitators teaching over 13,000 children. She believes that education is a very powerful tool that helps us make our world a more empathetic, kind, purposeful, loving, and fulfilling place. Over to you, Ananthi.
Thanks, Nikita, for that lovely introduction. And I'm truly honored to be here. And I'm so grateful for all the speakers and all the delegates and for agreeing to be part of the Splendor conference. We are at the end of the conference, so I am not going to take the names of each and every one of you, but really, really grateful for making the Splendor a truly successful event. And not to say the least, the sponsors have been amazingly helpful. Thanks, Efficacy, the Bluebell Schools, MBJ Group of Institutions, Luvia, for all the support that they've given. JNC College and the Center for Media Studies we've got wonderful interns and a lot of support from them, and they've done a fantastic job helping us organize this conference. The Silre team, again, without them, it would not have been possible. Every single member of the team have contributed for making this conference a great, great success. We started with a goal to make Splendor a place to have interesting and important conversations and move ahead with collaborations moving forward. So over the last 3 days, we've had 50 plus speakers and 1,000 plus participations who have actually attended the conference across the different sessions. It was really, really exciting. And these are not just numbers. We've been very conscious about the conference being very diverse and inclusive. When we started getting our first set of delegates and speakers, we had one male speaker. Unlike the other male-dominated professions, the education industry is highly female-dominated, and we put in conscious effort there also. When we still couldn't achieve 50% equality, but we came close. We had almost 30% of our delegates were men. But the interesting part is we also moved on ahead, and we had participants who identified themselves as non-binary genders as well. That was truly inspiring for us to have participation from all walks of life. Not only that, we had delegates and participants who had physical and intellectual disabilities and challenges, gifted children. I'm truly proud to say this was a real inclusive conference. This was what we set out to do, to have a conference that can showcase how we can be inclusive. And honestly, for an organization like Silre, with a very, very small team and a bootstrapped organization, being able to achieve this is a huge milestone, and it is not wouldn't have been possible without every single one of them. Gauri has been amazingly supportive. She is the partner and co-founder at Silre in making this happen. And Somu is been from the planning to execution to the detail. I think it's been phenomenal effort. A lot of us, we've been hearing from all the organizers that there is a lot of attention to detail that is gone in and for the smooth execution. And it's again, thanks to the team, Aparna, for coordinating and getting things done, and Sakina for making sure we reach the 1,000 mark that we set out to, and Kausar for making sure that we have all the details that we needed from all our delegates, and uh, coordinating with them and helping them out in all the ways. Thank you so much, guys. We wouldn't have done it without you. And last but not the least, Fatima, it was truly amazing to have you on the team. Whether Splendor or outside Splendor, you are our taskmaster and keeping us on toe. Thanks so much for that. And I'm not going to take more time. We have some exciting and enthralling performances waiting. So thank you so much, everyone. Just one last point. We will be getting in touch with each of you, starting taking out ideas that come out of the conference. We will reach out to you and initiate collaborations and conversations, and how the learnings and the ideas that came out of the conference can be taken forward in terms of initiatives. Looking forward to engage with you all and make a large impact beyond Splendor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anati, for the warm expression of gratitude to the entire team. In conclusion, indeed, the pandemic has reinforced the huge potential and impact that we as educators, researchers, parents, students have in the journey of building a strong future and a strong nation. There has been no better time for us to come together as a community to support each other and work towards the positive evolution of the education system. Silre Splendor 2021 is the celebration of this very community and the togetherness it showcases. Highlights of all the sessions that have happened over 3 days will be posted in our social media handles. Do check them out. Thank you all once again for joining us today and sharing ideas. Keep innovating, and I wish you all a happy learning. This sounds like a conclusion, but wait. A fitting closure to such a brilliant conference is definitely by having some fun. Like I already mentioned, it's time for the after party. We have a music performance by Mr. Yogeshwaran, and also we'll continue with the mime performance by Mr. Shravant and his team. So on to the after party, guys. Thank you all once again. This is Likhita Chandrasekhara signing off.
Asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mridyorma Amirdam Ghamaya Asato ma Satgamaya Tamaso ma Jyotirghamaya mridyorma amirdham gamaya buddham charanam gacchami dhammam charanam gacchami sangam charanam gacchami Agnesde qui tollis peccatum Dei miserere Domine Allahu Akbar Allahu Akbar Allahu Akbar Allahu Akbar Shalom 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 The next song is from Tirukkural, 300 BC. அகர முதல எழுத்தெல்லாம் அகர முதல எழுத்தெல்லாம் ஆதி பகவன் முதற்றே உலகு ஆதி அகர முதல எழுத்தெல்லாம் ஆதி பகவன் முதற்றே உலகு ஆதி அகர முதல எழுத்தெல்லாம் அறவாழியந்தனன் தாழ் சேர்ந்தார்க்கு அறவாழியந்தனம் தாழ் சேர்ந்தார்க்கு பிற ஆழி நீந்தல் அரிது அகர முதல எழுத்தெல்லாம் ஆதி பகவன் முதற்றே உலகு ஆதி அகர முதல எழுத்தெல்லாம் பிறவி பெருங்கடல் நீந்துவார் நீந்தார் இறைவனடி சேராதார் பிறவி பெருங்கடல் நீந்துவார் நீந்தார் இறைவனடி சேராதார் பொறிவாயில் ஐந்தவித்தான் பொய்தீரொழுக்கம் பொறிவாயில் ஐந்தவித்தான் பொய்தீர் ஒழுக்கம் நெறி நின்றார் நீடு வாழ்வார் அகர முதல எழுத்தெல்லாம் ஆதி பகவன் முதற்றே உலகு ஆதி அகர முதல எழுத்தெல்லாம் The next song is Tagore from Rabindranath Tagore. Mamuchitti nidhir niti kijinache tata toi toi tata toi toi tata toi toi. Mamuchitti nidhin reti kijinache tata toi toi tata toi toi tata toi toi. Tari shunge kimridonge Sota pache tata toi toi tata toi toi tata toi toi. Tari shunge kimridonge soda baje tata toi toi tata toi toi tata toi toi. Hashikanna hirapanna tole bale kabichunde bale mondu tale tale. Hashikanna hirabanna dole bale kabichunde bale mundu tale tale. Nache jonmu nache mridyu pache pache tata toi toi tata toi toi tata toi toi. Mamuchitti nidhi nreti kijinache tata toi toi tata toi toi tata toi toi. Ki anand ki anand dibaratri nache mukti nache bandhu. Ki anand ki anand dibaratri nache mukti nache bandhu. Shetarange chutti range pache pache tata toi toi tata toi toi tata toi toi. Shetarange chutti range pache pache tata toi toi tata toi toi tata toi toi. Mamuchitti nidhin reti kijinache tata toi toi tata toi toi tata toi toi. The next composition is from Vibulananda Adikal, from eastern Sri Lanka. He was the author of Yal Noor. So basically I set this poem into music. வெள்ளை நிற மல்லிகையோ வேறந்த மாமலரோ வெள்ளை நிற மல்லிகையோ வேறந்த மாமலரோ வள்ளல் அடியிணைக்கு வாய்த்த மலரெதுவோ வெள்ளை நிற மல்லிகையோ வேறந்த மாமலரோ வள்ளல் அடியிணைக்கு வாய்த்த மலரெதுவோ வெள்ளை நிற பூவுமல்ல வேறெந்த மலருமல்ல வெள்ளை நிற பூவுமல்ல வேறெந்த மலருமல்ல உள்ள கமலமடி உத்தமனார் வேண்டுவது உள்ள கமலமடி உத்தமனார் வேண்டுவது வெள்ளை நிற பூவுமல்ல வேறந்த மலருமல்ல வள்ளல் இறையடிக்கு ஏற்ற மலரெதுவோ காப்பவிழ்ந்த தாமரையோ கழுநீர் மலர்த்தொடையோ காப்பவிழ்ந்த தாமரையோ கழுநீர் மலர்த்தொடையோ மாப்பிள்ளையாய் வந்தவர்க்கு வாய்த்த மலரெதுவோ மாப்பிள்ளையாய் வந்தவர்க்கு வாய்த்த மலரெதுவோ காப்பவிழ்ந்த மலருமல்ல கழுநீர் தொடையுமல்ல கூப்பிய கை காந்தளடி கோமகனார் வேண்டுவது கூப்பிய கை காந்தளடி கோமகனார் வேண்டுவது பாட்டலிசர் பொற்கொன்றையோ பாரில்லா கற்பகமோ பாட்டலிசர் போர்க்கொன்றையோ பாரில்லா கற்பகமோ வாட்டமுறாதவர்க்கு வாய்த்த மலரெதுவோ பாட்டலிசர் கொன்றையல்ல பாரில்லா பூவுமல்ல பாட்டளி சேர்கொன்றையல்ல பாரிலில்லா பூவுமல்ல நாட்டவிழி நெய்தலடி நாயகனார் வேண்டுவது வெள்ளை நிற மல்லிகையோ வேறந்த மாமலரோ வள்ளல் அடியிணைக்கு வாய்த்த மலரெதுவோ there is no concert complete without Bharati and Bharatidasan. I will sing one from Bharatidasan, one from Bharati, the great Subramanya Bharatiyar, and then I will conclude with another song. துன்பம் நேர்கையில் யாழெடுத்து நீ இன்பம் சேர்க்க மாட்டாயா துன்பம் நேர்கையில் யாழெடுத்து நீ இன்பம் சேர்க்க மாட்டாயா எமக்கின்பம் சேர்க்க மாட்டாயா நல் அன்பிலா நெஞ்சில் தமிழில் பாடி நீ அல்லல் நீக்க மாட்டாயா கண்ணே அல்லல் நீக்க மாட்டாயா ஒன்பும் எளிமையும் சூழும் நாட்டிலே வாழ்வில் உணர்வு சேர்க்க பண்பும் எளிமையும் சூழும் நாட்டிலே வாழ்வில் உணர்வு சேர்க்க எம் வாழ்வில் உணர்வு சேர்க்க நல் அன்றை தமிழ் கூற்றின் முறையினால் அன்றை நாற்றமிழ் கூத்தின் முறையினால் ஆடி காட்ட மாட்டாயா கண்ணே, ஆடி காட்ட மாட்டாயா? அறமிதென்றும் யாம் மரமிதென்றுமே அருகிலாத போது, யாம் அருகிலாத போது, தமிழ் இறைவனாரின் திரு குறளிலே ஒரு சொல், இறைவனாரின் திரு குறளிலே ஒரு சொல் இயம்பி காட்ட மாட்டாயா கண்ணே, இயம்பி காட்ட மாட்டாயா? துன்பம் நேர்கையில் யாழெடுத்து நீ இன்பம் சேர்க்க மாட்டாயா கண்ணே? ஆ The next song is going to be from Subramanya Bharatiyar, and this song is set to music by my guru, Professor T.V. Sir. சொல்ல வல்லாயோ கிளியே, சொல்ல நீ வல்லாயோ கிளியே, சொல்ல வல்லாயோ கிளியே, சொல்ல நீ வல்லாயோ கிளியே, சொல்ல வல்லாயோ? வல்லவேல் முருகன் தன்னை இங்கு வல்லவேல் முருகன் தன்னை இங்கு வந்து கலந்து மகிழ்ந்து குலாவென்று சொல்ல வல்லாயோ கிளியே, சொல்ல நீ வல்லாயோ கிளியே, சொல்ல வல்லாயோ? அள்ளிக்குள தருகே ஒரு நாள் அந்தி பொழுதினிலே, அள்ளிக்குள தருகே ஒரு நாள் அந்தி பொழுதினிலே, அங்கோர் முல்லை கொடி அதன் ஆ ஆ முல்லை கொடி அதன் பால் செய்த வினை முற்றும் மறந்திட கற்றதனே என்று சொல்ல வல்லாயோ கிளியே, சொல்ல நீ வல்லாயோ கிளியே, சொல்ல வல்லாயோ? I shall conclude the recital with Maitri Bhajan. Maitrim bhajata akila hrijetri. Maitrim bhajata akila hrijetri. Maitrim bhajata akila hrijetri. Adhavadeva Paranapi Pashyata Adhavadeva Paranapi Pashyata Yuddham Tyajata Spartam Tyajata Yuddham Tyajata Spartam Tyajata Tyajada Pareshva Kramama Kramanam Tyajada Pareshva Kramama Kramanam Maitrim Bhajata Akhila Hrijetrim Janani Prithvi Kamadukate Janani Prithvi Kamadukate Janako Devaha Sakala Dayalo Janako Devaha Sakala Dayalo Tam yadata dayadam janata tam yadata dayadvam janata shreyo bhuyat sakala jananam shreyo bhuyat sakala jananam Shreyo Bhuyat Sakala Jananam Shreyo Bhuyat Sakala Jananam Shreyo Bhuyat Sakala Jananam.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm truly at loss for words. I can't appreciate this performance enough. So I'll just say namaskaram. Thank you so much for that brilliant
Thanks.
performance.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for Anandi and Kausar as well. They have been so helpful for me to be in this podium, and and my personal gratitude for everybody. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Up next, we will continue with the fun we were having with Shravan's conversation earlier. Over to you, Shravan, and your team.
Mute. Yeah. Thank you so much, Nikita. That was a soothing performance. Thanks to Yogesh, sir. Really good. Great. Okay, so back to we'll finish off soon. Like back to the performance that we're doing. So we at the end, I hope Nikita was saying about the chemistry, right? I hope so. Like you were talking about the chemistry. If I had the chemistry teacher like you, like then we would learn the concepts. So so with the performance that we are going to show right now, is some way related to the chemistry. Let's see if you could find out what the concept is about. Vasant, are we ready to do it? Is the music also ready? Yeah. Okay, do it. Okay, so ready? So So you all have to find out which concept that we are doing it. So that's the fun element. So be interactive. Even if you don't know, don't worry. You can just try to post some answers that can be possible. Okay, ready? So Gauri, on this concept I have not presented to you, so you can guess out the things. Okay, so anyone can guess out the things. Okay, ready? Ready.
Party favorites or simple snack?
Okay. So can you all guess what concept that we portrayed? What actually? Okay, leave the concept. What we're trying to do it. Can someone explain? Okay. Teacher-student interaction. Yeah. Then. And then school life. Yes. And then taking notes, day school, sharing of someone got, yeah, Rajeshwari, yeah, sharing of electrons. Perfect. So we are talking about, that's nice, that's a good thing. Okay, sharing of electrons. Good. Finally, okay. So we are talking about the ionic bond and the covalent bond relationship. That's where the concept is all about. So the friends that were the first day were asked to one was having banana, the other was having a huge lunch. So the person asked, can you share? He said no. So can you share that one to me? He said no. So both doesn't share anything. So and they walk out. And then the next day they came in, they said, like, you give me that, I'll give you this. So we both shared things. So they both shared and they felt happy. So that's that relationship, the friends they had is ionic bond. Okay, that's the ionic bond relationship. Okay, the moment I walked in, I asked them, can you please share me some of your lunch? And then they both said, okay, happy. And then even I took something and then I ate. Okay, and I also felt complete, happy. So the relationship between myself, they gave me everything. Whatever that is left over, they gave me, right? What is left over? So that's not a problem for them. So they gave it to me. So the relationship between myself and them is the covalent relationship. Okay, so that's very simple, right? So one person was asking, like, chemistry can also be done likewise in the simplest way. Like it would be fun learning, like when you do concepts like this. So similarly, we started training the light concepts, the light as in the physics concepts, incident rays, or like the reflection or refraction, using shadows, okay, using shadow plays. So all these things were happening, not without the help of the teachers, because they are the subject matter experts. They would come to us and give us a concept. They will try to understand us what the concept of foundation it is, and then we put it in a story as a whole bunch, and then we perform. So this is how it all started there back in IIT Madras. And from there, we started doing for all days of science day, math day, whatever the day comes, we go to we go to schools and then perform. We take concepts, and then we started to take sessions for teachers. This is our main concept. We take creative training sessions for the teachers to understand how can we tell a story and then implement with the education. So when they go back to the class and then they explain the concept to the students with the story is the key point. Okay, so we will finish with the last performance. So the last performance. Vasant, are you ready?
Yeah.
Even I don't know what is the last performance. I'll watch with you guys. They made something surprise. I don't know really. Vasant, yeah, whenever you're ready, you can start.
That's round.
Adams, I go on mute. Okay, fine. So yeah, someone was telling me like, oh sorry, it was like the concept. I saw the chat messages. It's as simple as that, like germination of seed. We eat, we throw the seed, it grows somewhere, and when we try to plant something, it doesn't grow for sure. so so the right thing that we did is that these guys did is like for the fruit to grow, like for the seed to grow, it needs a rich soil thing, and then it needs a perfect light, and then the water should go in. So all those concepts came into picture. So that's the germination of seed. We do this for the kindergartens. When you go do this ad, they love it. They try to implement the same thing. They wouldn't understand the concept, but they will show the process. So same wise, we teach them the water cycle. They wouldn't understand the concept much for the kindergartens, but they would love to perform these kind of acts. So they will try to replicate these things, and they will say, "This is the cycle." So ultimately, when they get to know what they were doing, when they recognize it, so they will say like, "Okay, this is what I done. So this is the cycle." So they automatically say it. So likewise, there are the lot of things that we are doing for the schools, especially in education. Thanks for the opportunity, Gauri ma'am, and then thanks to Yuri Setu sir. He is my guru. He's the one who taught me how to write scripts, how to listen to scripts, and then how to analyze the scripts. So that's how I learned to tell stories. So thanks to everyone, and thanks to everyone for having so much of patience to watching us. So I hope you all had fun. Thank you all. Take care. Okay.
Thank you so much, Shravan. Thank you so much, Vasant, and the rest of the
Raj.
team. Raj,
Yeah.
okay, Vasant and Raj, thank you so much. Brilliant acting. I'm no expert, but I thoroughly enjoyed it and understood what you were trying to say. It was awesome. This truly made me really want to go back to school and have people like Shravan come and teach me concepts. School would have been so much more fun. So thank you once again for such a brilliant performance and for showing how art forms can be used to impart learning, right? So thank you once again, Yogeshwaran sir, Shravant and team for making the after party so much fun. And with that, we finally come to the end of Silray Splendor 2021. Thank you all once again and have a great evening. Bye. Oh, I forgot to mention one important person who helped us throughout the conference. We must thank him, and that is Roja and Keshavan, our ISL interpreters, without whom this conference wouldn't have been truly inclusive, right? Thank you so much, Keshavan. Thank you so much, Roja, for helping us in the ISL interpretation. Thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks so much, Shravan. Thanks so much, Yogeshwaran sir and Likita. Thank you so much for having a wonderful evening today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vasant. Thanks, Raj. We really, really enjoyed it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Bye. See you next time.
Bye, everyone.
End meeting?
Yeah.